If I was not making reviews of aircraft models, I would not buy this model. Find out why now. Hello and welcome to a new episode of Review, where we today will take a closer look at a Boeing 737 MAX 8 from TUIfly. At the front of the box we have the cutout so we can get a glimpse of the aircraft model inside, and on top of the box we have the TUI branding. On the back side of the box, as this is a 2019 release, the only thing of interest we have is a very lovely rendition of the aircraft itself. And here she is, the Boeing 737 MAX 8 of TUIfly, the long-awaited model and the first scale 500 model of this aircraft type from Herpa Wings. Now let us take a closer look at the model, and we start off with the tail section, where we find the TUI branding on the vertical stabilizer. On top of the stabilizer we then have the last two letters of the registration code. The full registration code of the aircraft we find on the fuselage, where we also have the German flag, the aircraft type specification, and a little bit of detailing around the APU exhaust. At the front of the aircraft across the fuselage we then have the TUI branding. We also have a little bit of detailing around the cockpit windows, where we for example have the window wipers printed on. The engine nacelles have been kept in all white but do carry the TUI.com branding. Now, the biggest difference on the engines of the MAX series compared to the NG series is of course the size of the engines. Now, Herpa has definitely not got that right. The engines are far too small. What they have got right are the chevron nozzles. They do look very nice here. If you look into the engines from the front side, we can then see the engine fan blades very nicely. Just above the wings we then find on the fuselage the emergency exits printed on, and that leads us straight to the wings, which we should also take a look at. If we look at the wings here on the top side, we can see all the different flaps, slats and spoilers carved out very nicely, and we do also have the markings for the emergency exits printed on. Also, the underside of the wings look pretty decent, where we also find the full registration code of the aircraft once more. The new winglets that Boeing is applying on the 737 MAX could look really nice, and they do so in real life. Unfortunately, they just don't here. These are far too bulky. Herpa has proven themselves that they can make really nice and sleek details. For example, the split scimitars of the NG. They are much more sleek than what we see here. Obviously, they're not exactly the same type of winglet, but they are fairly similar, and I don't see why Herpa would not be able to make them nicer than what they have done here. Also, the landing gear has problems. On first glimpse, it looks pretty decent. It is fairly detailed, and Herpa has done a decent job with that, but the landing gear is far too tall. And at the end, a detail that Herpa has actually executed rather well, and that are the doors to the cargo compartments. They have been printed on here in the backside of the aircraft, and unsurprisingly also here at the front of the aircraft. So there we have it, the first attempt from Herpa Wings to make a model of the 737 MAX 8, and it is a huge flop. Now, I normally try not to be too negative and be as objective as I can when I make these reviews. But in this case, I must say that I am thoroughly disappointed. I had seen early drawings of this model, and you could see it was far too tall. I had seen a sample model of this aircraft model, and you could see it was far too tall, but I was sure that Herpa would adjust that before releasing the model. They haven't. The aircraft looks like it is standing on stilts. And yes, the 737 MAX is taller than the NG series, but not that much. And the engines are far too small. And the winglets are a complete disaster. So what is distinguishing the 737 MAX on a visual basis from the 737 NG? Well, the landing gear, the engines, and the winglets. And all three new details Herpa has failed with. So I would not recommend this model. But I know this judgment can be seen as being quite harsh, so feel free to let me know what you think about this aircraft model in the comment section below. With that, we have reached the end of today's episode. If you have enjoyed it, then feel free to leave a like, that would be very much appreciated. If you are new around here, then why not hit subscribe, that would be absolutely awesome. And with that, I'd like to say thank you so much for watching. Hope to see you soon again. I'm checking out, and bye.